everyone, and welcome back. I'm your host, Veteran Mountain Man, and it's another Saturday recap. So, let's take a look at what's in the news. Jesse Smollett. You know, I don't really know what to say on this situation. I mean, the man faked a hate hoax, and he faked a biological weapon attack, both on himself. This is beyond anything rational, people, and we really need to let the legal system handle this at this point, because there's not a whole lot we can actually do. However, I hope he gets a fair hearing by a jury as guaranteed by the Constitution. Now, that being said, this is not societal correct behavior. You can't go around faking crimes to create an idea that people are doing these things. And the idea that there are actually some people out there supporting him, stating, well, this was a fake hoax, but his idea covers a broader idea of America. I need more evidence than that. And if you're going to say, well, hate crimes are up 17% according to the FBI, you know what? 17% realistically of an increase in hate crimes, which is relatively low to begin with, is fairly easy to accomplish. If your entire sample set before the increase was 100 crimes, and you ended up with 117 crimes the next year, you have a 17% increase. See, this is why part of this is to put this into perspective. Many times people mislead you with statistical data. Okay? If it's not a 2n deviation in statistical information, it is not statistically significant. And if you only have 1 point in a sample set that is outside of that 2n deviation set, you are still not statistically significant because you have an outlier and not an actual statistical curve item. Now, this is something that many people never really get when they do statistical analysis and statistical science. Another thing that they have trouble with is formulating a hypothesis and formulating an inverse hypothesis. Many times they create too broad a hypothesis for their sample or their understanding of what they're trying to prove, and therefore they prove their hypothesis by disproving their inverse hypothesis. And that doesn't necessarily give you a conclusive answer. You actually have to prove your hypothesis. And so when you create statistics and then try to use them to claim things with only one really set of statistics, looking at last year's versus this year's, as opposed to looking at a broad trend, which is all statistics is good for. Statistics is good for generalizing information. It doesn't give you specific information. It will never give you specific information. Okay? You can easily be misled. Now, other news. Okay, we have Pocahontas and Heels Up Kamala Harris, both Democrat candidates, calling for reparations. Now, they're calling for two different types of reparations here, mind you. So we're going to go over these kind of together and kind of apart. Kamala Harris is going for reparations for slavery, and Elizabeth Warren is, well, okay, no real surprise here, going for reparations for native populations. Okay, first of all, I don't even know how you're going to address this, because anybody who was a slave in the United States is gone. Anybody who was a slaveholder in the United States is gone. To try to punish society as a whole for the actions of individuals is totalitarian and immoral. And realistically, this also applies to the subjugation and tribalization and even the reservation of native populations. The people who did most of this stuff are gone. The people who it was done to have since gone. Now, does that mean that what was done was not wrong? No, it was wrong. The only way you can do anything about it being wrong is to take it as an example from history of what doesn't work and move forward with it. Now, that's one of the downsides of history, people. There is no way to change history. You can ignore history. You can attempt to rewrite history, but unless you have complete control over everyone, you cannot effectively rewrite history because the information will come out from other sources. But realistically, you cannot actually physically change actions that have already occurred. Now, you can treat people better based on the incorrect behavior of the past. You can remove barriers out of their way without creating barriers for other people. But in a free and civilized society, playing this kind of victim mentality doesn't really gain you anything, and it really harms everyone in its entirety by doing this. But no real surprise there. The Democrat Party is trying to push a new social agenda, and they're trying to do it on the heels of anti-Trump disapproval. I honestly don't think President Trump is that disapproved of because of his policies, everyone. I think he's disapproved of simply because he's mean. And you know what? Sometimes a country needs tough love. I was reading Machiavelli the other night. I'm reading his treatise called The Prince. It's about monarchic governance in mid and late Renaissance Italy. And he actually discusses republics. He only does a small section on it, but he does discuss republics. And he states that every 10 to 20 years, a republic needs to return to base principles, either through a strong man or harsh enforcement of the laws, because lax enforcement of the laws creates decadence, and weak leadership does this. It causes ignorance of the laws. Well, we see this actually playing out amongst the Democrats right now, and it really saddens me that I'm having to quote Machiavelli, who's basically considered one of the least moral Italian philosophers of the Renaissance. But he does actually illustrate the point that is going on amongst the Democrats right now. They have become decadent and weak in their leadership and enforcement of the laws. And as such, they are promoting continued lawlessness and continued weakness for the population as a whole. They are literally trying to turn the republic weaker. And they are justifying it through their own weakness. Now, that means that the only way you can fight it is strength and principles. And so we really need to start inspiring people to come back to base principles, which is something I'm hoping I'm doing, and I'm trying to reach out and do to others. Let's see, what else is in the news? Not a whole lot. Oh wait, Notre Dame has covered up all of their murals of Christopher Columbus, of course. California is trying to pass a law that will remove criminal penalties for people reporting crimes. I'm going to do a Regulatory Tuesday on that coming up. People are still pushing this whole concept of Medicare for all. Now, I was listening with a speaker talk with Ben Shapiro, or maybe it was Andrew Klavan, earlier this week, and he was talking about removing all of the public health care options and creating a more market-based strategy. Now, for the most part, I agreed with him. There are some fundamental problems that I have with that, and the one fundamental problem is the VA. he wants to get rid of Veterans Affairs medical support. Now, the reason I have a problem with this is because veterans in general have medical issues and concerns that are unique to veterans. You don't see their types of injuries and wounds regularly in the rest of society. It was one of the reasons the VA was created. Now, do I think that veterans who are part of the VA system should also carry independent health insurance? Yes, I do, and I do when I have that option available to me. And I exercise that insurance because it's difficult to get into the VA. It is difficult to get care through the VA. It is difficult to be seen by the VA. But the VA is also treating cases of black lung from trash burning in combat zones that have been recent. They're treating shrapnel wounds that are chronic and progressive. They're treating specific forms of reaction to chemicals and agents that you're exposed to in war zones that the average citizen never even sees. The M1 Abrams tank uses depleted uranium armor. How many average citizens are exposed to depleted uranium on a daily basis? Pretty much none, but every single tanker in the United States Army that works with an M1 is around depleted uranium every day. So the idea that we should abolish the VA system entirely is a problem. Now, do I think it should move to more of a hybrid system where veterans who are suffering from veteran-specific issues can get treatment through the VA with doctors specialized in that care, and the rest of the time use normal private medical health care? Yes, I really do. I think it would actually be the best solution for our veterans. And me being one of them, I have to admit, I have a hat in the ring. I am a veteran. I have a lot of veteran friends. I have veterans that are family. But I realistically believe that that would be a better solution than what we have now. And I also think it would reduce costs overall. Now, something else that they keep talking about, oh, well, you know, if everybody has health care, everybody can see a doctor. Well, truth is, unless you completely nationalize the medical care system and the insurance industry, you will never get that. What we need to do is we need to look at removing this vestige of health insurance the way it's set up as something that your employer has to provide and private insurance is too expensive, and start going to more of a pay-as-you-go medical system. Because the only thing that is going to really reduce prices in medical care and ease issues and reduce headaches and stress and overage costs and all of this other stuff that the insurance system we currently have creates is to actually remove these middlemen that we have put in place because of other bad socialist policies such as wage caps and earning caps and progressive high tax brackets, and actually release that section of the market from government control that has been strangling it for now more than 50 years. It's the only way you can create competition. You'll create specialized clinics that way. You'll reduce the overall cost due to specialization and reduction of services by individual groups so that they can more specialize in care, reduce overhead, reduce things of that nature. Now, is it a perfect solution? No, because nothing's perfect. But I do know that that solution served the United States very well up until World War II. Healthcare costs were very stable in the United States, and we were still leading in drug patents and new techniques up until that point. After World War II, when the entirety of the world's production economy was decimated, we continued to strive. And part of the reason we continued to strive was because the rest of the world was decimated. Part of the reason we have seen such a slowdown of our economy is because of all the regulations and stipulations put into it after World War II. Well, I want to thank you for joining me for this Saturday recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or thumbs up and subscribe if you're on BitChute. Also, don't forget to check out my other social media sites down below. And as always, have yourself a beautiful Saturday, and be watching for tomorrow when I drop my cultural Marxism